Yena thina mavulandlela sesifikile kunelihlelo lakho it's your right Yilungelo Lakho lelikulethela ke indzaba debathengi letisematheni sikulethela ke lelihlelo bukhoma lapho ku SABC 1 Mzansi for sure kanzi ke nawe ungaba ingcenye lelihlelo ngethe ke ushaya licingo ku 011 714 6918 noma ke ku 011 714 6919 ungachumana nathi ke futhi ku email ku consumer@sabc.co.za sathinda sitfolakala futhi na ku Facebook na ku Twitter kanzi ke leli Yilungelo Lakho. Now, selling your property for a handsome profit is an opportunity that no consumer would want to miss. Some even go to the extent of doing away with the services of a skilled property professional and sell privately, all in the hope of pocketing the commission themselves instead of paying an estate agent. Now, this has led to a trend where the lawyers who often charge very little or no commission at all are now selling property. But then experts warn consumers that though cutting your losses by saving every penny is wise, the wisdom of that approach could be disastrous. Yebo ke mbukeli letsematheni namhla tithi ke sekunendlela lensha yokuthengisa tindlu. Kepha ke mbukeli yonke indvo inebuhle nebubi bayo.
Xa kuthengwa okanye kuthengiswa indlu i-estate agent bangumuntu oqala kuyiwa kuye. Ngoku sekuphuthuluka namagqwetha akhweba abathengi esithi wona ngawenza lo msebenzi ngcono. Yena nto ayikhulisa phambili nomtsalane kubathengi yokuba endaweni yokuhlawula i-estate agent intywenga ye-commission wona lamagqwetha abiza ngaphansi le.
Mina ngicabanga ukuthi mawusithengisela wena kuba ngcono because ama-agent normally bathatha imali eningi and uwe uspendile maybe wakha lendlu leyo or ukuthenga lendlu leyo. So ngicabanga ukuthi mawusithengisela wena kuba ngcono just ukuthi ube nesikhathi ungajahi then indlu yakho then bazayithenga. Inkinga ukuthi siyajaha then masijaha sifaka ama-agent then bese bathatha imali yethu ke.
Ngcono ngisithengisele. Nami ngicabanga ukuthi ngcono ngisithengisele indlu yami ngithatha isikhathi sami ngibuyisa imali yami engiyakhe ngayo ngibuyise ne-profit on top of that.
Ingayi ku-agent?
No agent.
Kodwa kubanye abathengi into yokuthengisa indlu ayiyonto umuntu wadlalela kuyo ingakumbi xa kukho abantu abanesakhono kwelo cala.
Using a estate agent because at least I wouldn't have to deal with the troubles of being involved in selling the house.
It's a lot of process because paperwork and those sorts of things and awazi paperwork izohamba njani and ama estate agent azokufundisa ukuthi no this and this and this and that you have to sign this and this and that.
Agent is very important. I mean, I'll choose the agent.
Umsebenzi kaGary Stone kukubonisa abantu izindlu ezithengiswayo. Uthi kule minyaka emininzi yethengisa izindlu ufunde ukuba abantu banolwazi oluncinane kakhulu malunga nokuthengiswa kwendlu. Bacinga ukuba ukuthengisa indlu into engenziwa ngokuthathatha ngoko akukho mfuneko yokusebenzisa i-estate agent.
A seller that is working himself directly with the public is the same as a person going to court that's representing themselves without a lawyer. Effectively, at the end of the day, he's not going to know what the price should be. He's going to have an emotional value on price. He's not going to get proper feedback from the buyer. And at the end of the day, he's probably going to give up or he's going to have to reduce his price and sell for less than what he could have got in the market.
Stone uthi akhondo ithindela ubani ukuthengiseni indlu yakhe kodwa ungafumani ingcebiso kwingcaphephe kungakho ingxaki enyizo ngxaki ukufikelela kwixabiso lokuthengisa indlu yakho.
Most sellers actually overvalue their properties and their houses are in the market for a long time, and without the advice of an estate agent you would never know what the next step is.
Provided that you can carry it.
Amagqwetha adlala indima enkulu xa kuthengwa okanye kuthengiswa indlu. Indima yawo iqala iphelele ekuqulunqeni amaxwebhu okuthengisa indlu ngokusesikweni. Ukuba adlulele ekuthengiseni rhanela unyawo lwemfene apho.
As a lawyer, you can't just wake up and say that now I want to market and sell property because our profession doesn't allow it. And also the act that regulates the estate agency doesn't allow it. So you need to register with the board first before you can market and sell properties, and you need to use a different entity and not your law practice.
Into etsala abantu liyokuphepha inhlawulo ekuthiwa i-commission. Uchabalala uthi kuphepha enhlawulo kanti kukho enkulu ekulinde ngaphambili.
So you might be thinking, I'm saving on a commission, but you might end up with litigation. And that commission that you thought that you're saving might not be worth it.
Ucebisa abathengi ukuba bangabeki ukonga ngaphambili kwento yonke. Kula maxesha anzima wonke ubani unqala itiki ingahlukani nepokotho yakhe. Kodwa xa agqithisa angachaneka.
There's a saying that says penny wise, pound foolish. So in other words, you can expose yourself as the seller by not covering certain aspects in your transaction. So I think that's where the danger lies.
Yilungelo Lakho.
Ya siyabonga lo mbiko lesulethelwe nguvuyisile Mdoda. Nyalo kukhuluma kabandi ngalendzaba yanamhla asesimukele Jan Leroux lobuya ke enhlanganweni limelele bathengisi betindlu phecelezi ama estate agents iRebosa ulapha ke yena eCape Town. Siphinde sibe naye ke Bangiso Mhlabeni yena ke ungummeli. Siphinde sibe naye futhi na Daniel Heineke yena ke ungummeli lothengisa tindlu. Gentlemen, a very good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, thank you.
Now, for purposes of exposing our viewers and the consumers to all the pros and the cons of selling a property privately or through an estate agent or through the lawyers, I'd like us to explore all these advantages and the disadvantages. I'm going to start with you, Daniel.
Well, look, coming from my point of view of, I mean, we saw the signs there, lawyers selling property, it makes sense, more expertise, less talk. It's essentially come from a lack of development in the real estate practice in South Africa. And at the moment, we, as a country, charge some of the highest commission rates in the world, essentially second to Mexico, charging an average of 7.5%. And the whole idea of it comes in trying to streamline the process. As was mentioned earlier, I'm not sure who the interviewee there was, but said that trying to sell your property on your own is like trying to go to court on your own.
Right.
It's quite risky, and there's also a big trend in the market at the moment where you sort of have agent list services, which you can elect to do, but obviously there are risks involved. I mean, as we discussed earlier, you can go and sell your microwave on Gumtree, but selling your own property entails a lot more than that.
Yeah.
So essentially, the way we look at it in a property transaction, you have essentially 4 role players. You have a buyer, a seller, an estate agent, and an attorney who ultimately will do the transfer and the conveyancing.
Okay.
Of course, if there's a bond involved, then of course the bank is a role player, and you have bond cancellation attorneys.
Yeah.
And bond attorneys as well. But essentially what we do is we streamline the process and make it a more affordable and more effective solution to our clients.
Okay. Now, Bangeni, at what point does a lawyer become the preferred person to sell or buy property on the client's behalf? Ngabasebenzisa nini bameli?
Thank you. Kaniti, the normal process that we have been embarking on as conveyancers, because not every lawyer can deal with property-related issues. Normally, the law says for you to be able to do a transfer or conveyancing, you must first be a registered conveyancer. You must write an exam as an attorney, and then pass that exam and be an accredited conveyancer, and you get admitted in court. Okay. So only conveyancers have the right and authority to pass ownership or transfer, or even to register bonds. So, and then secondly, the Attorneys Act does allow attorneys to set up, to sell properties. It is allowed. But for you to be able to sell a property, you must first be registered also with the Estate Agency Affairs Board, because they regulate all the property sales or all the people that are selling the property. And the reason to do that is the Agency Affairs Board, Estate Agency Affairs Board, they must protect the interests of the housing consumer by regulating the conduct of the people who are selling properties, like estate agents or attorneys who are in the business of selling properties. So for us as attorneys, we are double regulated. We are regulated by the Law Society, firstly, because of the Attorneys Act. And once we engage in the business of selling property, then you also have to be registered with or accredited by the Estate Agency Affairs Board. And every person not taking in or
so labangasi registered under Estate Agents Affairs Board, my property.
No, once they sell, then the clients that they are representing are not protected in the Estate Agents Affairs Board, but they can be protected by the Attorneys Act. But it's like when you are a builder, if you start building, you must be registered with the NHBRC, because that's what the law says. And if you start building without being registered or start selling property when you're not accredited by the Estate Agency Affairs Board, you may be running a risk of committing a crime. So you need to ensure that when you get into a business of selling properties, you understand the rules of the game, and you got the necessary fidelity fund certificate to cover the client in the event that a transaction goes wrong and the client loses money. So you must be able to refund or to put the client in the position that it was before either a fraud or a loss of money or of property is incurred.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Jan Leroux in Cape Town, let me bring you into the discussion. When you talk of a credible and an ideal estate agent, what are we looking at?
Well, clearly somebody that is registered with the Estate Agency Affairs Board, as one of the gentlemen has pointed out, and preferably with the right kind of experience. This is really not an industry or a profession for extremely young people, because estate agents are trained or pick up through experience to really listen to their clients. It's not just a straightforward legal transaction. It's trying to understand what their needs are, advising them accordingly, helping them over those hurdles to make the right decision and looking after them in the process. So you're looking at experience, enough legal knowledge, and doing the right thing, acting in terms of the code of conduct of the Estate Agency Affairs Board, etc. So, yeah, that would be my suggestion.
Who then is better equipped between an estate agent and a lawyer?
Well, clearly a lawyer would know all the legalities. I've got no doubt that the conveyancers in this panel would be more legally equipped to give just perfect legal advice. But as I explained, an estate agent does go quite a length further. It's much more than just the legalities. So yeah, I would rather deal with an estate agent that's a matter of specialization. I mean, you could be a lawyer or a conveyancer and never having marketed anything in your life. Or you may not have all the contacts and all the clients on your database because your day-to-day job is actually that of a conveyancer. Yeah. I think an estate agent is better equipped to handle that. And the comment that was made earlier about the fees, remember there's no prescribed fee for commission in South Africa. It's a guess to say it could be 7% or as close to Mexico or anything like that because we actually don't know. It is true that some agents ask 6%, there's agents that ask a lot less, but it's not regulated. And the seller actually only pays the agent commission once he's accepted an offer. So if you say, I want to sell my house for 1 million rand, and if I get an offer for 1 million rand net in my pocket, I'll accept the contract, then it means you only pay when you get exactly what you bargained for. So it could be expensive to charge only 1,000 rand a transaction when you don't get the right price. It is an absolute good deal if you charge 6% and get exactly what you want. So it's very debatable.
All right, we'll chat to you a little later, Jan, and we'll talk about the issue of commission after the break. Leli, Yilungelo Lakho. Sawumola futhi mbukele siqhubeka embeleni nenkulumo yethu ke sikhuluma ke ngizaba yokuthengisa indlu noma ke iproperty through ama estate agent noma ke through bameli. Tinqingo tebe sethuvuliwe singajabula kuva ngawe ukuthi wena ucabangani ngalenzaba. Inombolo lethu lapha ke ku screen nyalo ke 0117146918 noma ke ku 0117146919. Saqhubeka futhi netintethu lapha. Gentlemen, selling a property seems quite a naive process. Just let's get to the bolts and the nuts of what it actually entails in selling property.
Well, it's by naive process, I mean, at the end of the day, it is quite a complex process. And if you look at the South African deeds registry system, it is one of the best in the world, in fact, and your security of 10 years guaranteed, which is great. It isn't necessarily the quickest, but I mean, when you weigh up what's most important, it's great to have the peace of mind that we really do have a solid deeds registry system. In response to what Mr. Jan Leroux said earlier, I would completely agree that being a property broker or a property consultant is a very complex thing, and simply having legal knowledge is not all it requires. You have to be very sensitive to the needs of your clients. You have to be able to possess a certain set of soft skills to interact with clients and understand what they need. So for us, just having the legal knowledge is only a small part, but a very important part of the process. Yeah. Being able to deal with the client, give them price counseling, actually look at what their needs are and assess them is an extremely important part of the process. And we wouldn't recommend any lawyer who doesn't actually have the necessary preparation or training to actually go and sell a property.
Yeah. Now, if I decide to go it alone and I decide to sell the property on my own, and is it advisable?
I would not advise you to go alone and sell a property because there are a lot of pitfalls in the process. For example, we find today people are selling RDP houses. And those are giveaway houses, are not supposed to be sold. Because you get it, there's a benefit from the Department of Human Settlement or Housing Department, so that they can, fast track the lack of housing in South Africa. So when you get this gift, you go and sell it without even looking good title deed. There are conditions that prohibit you from selling the property, or at least restricting the transfer for a period of either 8 years or 10 years. So when you are a seller, you need to be aware of the conditions, of whether can I sell this property. And even when you sell it, sometimes you find that there are unscrupulous sellers who sell the property to 10 people and say, I sell it to you, I sell it to you, I sell it to you, and they all give deposits. And we might find that the innocent buyers are the ones that are affected or are prejudiced. And furthermore, the law, for example, Section 2 of the Alienation Act, it says all the transactions must be done in writing, the sale agreement, must be signed by the parties. And further, people are selling houses by mouth, word of mouth, I'm selling my house, or they're making an affidavit. That is not a sale agreement in terms of the Act, and it's not a valid transaction. And you find that a lot of people are becoming victims of these unscrupulous sellers. So, but when there is an agent or a trained lawyer who's in the business of selling businesses, you are able, or you are enjoined, or you are required even by the Consumer Protections Act to give consumer education to the sellers and the buyers, to educate them through about the process of selling, and what does it mean to sell a house, and what does it mean if there's a cooling off clause, for example, or there's no cooling off clause. What is the cooling off clause? So the person who's not in the business of selling property will not know those things.
What is it? What is that cooling off clause?
I think that's very well said. Just to interject before we get to the cooling off clause that's mentioned in the CPA, a property sale is not an ordinary agreement. It is not just like, when you look at the requirements of a contract in South Africa, they're pretty open-ended. Formality is only required in certain instances, like Section 2 of the Alienation of Land Act, where it needs to be in writing. So, and it gets a lot deeper than that, really, when you start looking at sectional title schemes. There are a lot of little niggly bits, and the reality of the business is that we have found that often, whether it's individuals on their own or estate agents in some cases, and I don't want to attack Jan at all, but we have found estate agents and individuals who make massive mistakes because they lack the legal knowledge necessary. Then back onto the cooling off rights.
Yes. Okay, I can start, then you can supplement. Ordinarily, in terms of the Alienation of Land Act, properties that were of the value that is less than 250,000, they were regarded as sales to people who are first-time home buyers. So those people were allowed to have 5 days after they have made an offer to go think about it. And within that 5 days, if they still want to proceed with the transaction, then it will be binding after 5 days once the seller accepts. But within 5 days, you can change your mind if it's less than 250,000. But properties that are of a value higher than that, they don't have a cooling off clause. But in terms of the Consumer Protections Act, it has introduced a cooling off period as well, whereby even after the transaction has changed hands, if you're still not happy, or if you have detected some defects that were not disclosed to you, you are still able to cancel the contract, even if they've done away with the cooling off, the threshold over 250,000 in a way.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We've got Cindy from Nigel on the line. Sakumukela Cindy, sawubona?
Hello, njani?
Siyaphila njani ma?
Ngiyaphila, yazi nginenkinga. Ngithenge indlu since last year September ku-agent. Agent yami yangihambisa ku-lawyer. So since le lawyer le ithi yangitshintshela ngabhadala everything namanje since last year September.
Uthi ke manje wathenga indlu and then ilawyer yenta njani? Sorry, I couldn't quite get that.
I-agent yami, the agent le ngithenge kuye indlu yathi yena ine-lawyer yangihambisa kule lawyer eBrakpan. Since last year September, and the lawyer and keep on ngiyayifonela akangifonela akangi-update nge-nothing, and the agent yami angisayitholi.
So le ndlu isegameni labani nyalo? Is it registered in your name?
Isasegameni nalo muntu ngithenge kuye.
But sohlala kuyo nyalo?
Sengihlala kuyo mina. I-lawyer that day sitshintsha ngimtshele ngathi ngihlala kuyo. Ngifuna ukuhlala kuqala ngihlala kuyo. Angitshela ukuthi within 3 months izaba yonke into itshintshile.
Okay, all right, Cindy, sabonga kakhulu kusishayela namhla. Now, Jan, in Cape Town, let me get you into this conversation. Now, our caller is basically saying that she bought a house last year and then the estate agent referred her to a lawyer for the formalization of the sale. But then the lawyer has been ducking and diving. Till today, the house is still not registered in her name. How would you respond to that?
I think it's actually a question for the lawyers. It is true that agents can recommend the use of certain conveyances, provided we have just cause in terms of the current code of conduct. So we could recommend to a seller and say this lawyer is in close proximity or renders a good service, etc., and direct you to use somebody if you need one, because many sellers don't deal with conveyances often and therefore don't readily have a name available. But once that recommendation is made, the conveyancer must obviously be qualified and registered with the lawyers' associations, and then it's up to them to render a good service. The agent cannot be responsible for what that the conveyancer then does or does not do.
All right. Yeah, how do you respond to that, Nhlamu?
I think you will detect a problem when the person says, I bought a house, I received occupation, and I exchanged money. Once there's an exchange of money, even before you become the owner, then you realize that this is one of those suspicious transactions. Because in terms of the law, you should not pay the purchase price before the property is registered at this office and it has become yours. Because now she paid, she has performed on her side, but the seller has not performed. So the seller can sell it to someone else. Because he got the money, he can run and sell it to the next person. So she's got no recourse except going to the law society and complain about, lodge a formal complaint about the lawyer, or go also to the Estate Agency Affairs Board to lodge a complaint about the agent. Because in the past, the agent would say, once I have found a willing buyer and a willing seller, it is the end of the deal, I need my commission. But now the Act, especially the Consumer Protection Act, even the Estate Agency Affairs Board, when they had a roadshow in the past 2 years, they say, you must see through, as an agent, that the transaction it comes to a fruition. That means there is a change of ownership. You cannot say, I've done my sale, therefore I found a buyer, therefore I got my commission, I'm out of it. Because that is not enough. It needs to lead to the finalization of the transaction.
Indeed. And having said that, let me share with you just a couple of tips. You know, when you find a buyer, do not sign any offer or deed of sale before the lawyer has actually examined that document. As I spin the foot, it's a shilling. I said to Yilungelo, siyabuya khona nyalo. Ungayinzawo. Sakumola futhi mbukele tincingo tethu setivuliwe phuthuma ke usishayile mbukele sikhuluma ngale ndzaba emlonyeni indzaba lemqoka kakhulu indaba ekuthengisa tindlu through bameli noma ke ma-estate agent. Let's now take a look at some of the Facebook messages that have been coming through. Robert Hlope uthi, it's better to buy or sell my house on my own because the agents are very expensive. It doesn't matter how long it will take to sell or buy it. Isaac Donga says, for me, it's good to consult an agent because sometimes people sell their houses because they're trying to escape the amount that they owe the municipality. So I think estate agents checks all those things. Stole Zamajobe Utsienage, I personally think it depends on where the house you're selling is located, but you as the owner, you know your house best. I would prefer to sell my house by myself and then only seek legal advice based on the paperwork and the transfer of ownership. Masilo Mahlodi Utsienage, no, it's not wise. What if you buy it and then you find that it owes the municipality a lot of money? I'm particularly interested in the last one. He talks about the historical debt, like inheriting historical debt.
Well, obviously, there could be many fees and levies outstanding to the municipality, which is checked in the conveyancing process. It's very important, and that needs to be settled. But touching on the caller earlier, if I can quickly do that, I think, I mean, to begin with, it's unfortunate because it sounds like it was referred to the conveyancer, and there wasn't really a relationship that well between the real estate agent and the conveyancer. And it also sounds like the seller wasn't really advised too well on the entire procedure. I completely agree. It's quite a suspicious sounding transaction, and of course you need to understand the gravity of what you're doing. That's why when a lawyer actually handles the entire sale, at your first point of contact, you have that quintessential, essential legal advice to advise you on the risks and pitfalls in terms of something like this, because there are many pitfalls, there are many dodgy deals going around, and I couldn't think of somebody better equipped than an attorney to advise you on your rights and the position of your sale.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
thanks, sir. I think when you sell a property or when you buy a property, in the past it used to be just a simple transaction. Currently there are a lot of considerations that you need to take through. For example, if I own a property, how much do I owe for rates and taxes at the municipality, and how much do I owe electricity, for example, if it's, you know, the electricity is separate and the water is separate, and how much do I owe the bank if there's a bond on the property? Will I make a profit or will I make a loss?
Yeah.
Is it a forced sale? Have I run out of a job so I can't repay the bond? Or is it an estate, deceased estate? So those considerations are important because it's not just a mere thing of selling, saying I'm going to sell it for 60,000. What if you own rates and taxes 40,000 and you owe the bond another 30,000 and you still have to pay the commission to the agent and you still have to secure that there's legal compliance of all the fittings in the house before you transfer the property. So you may find yourself selling at a loss. Whereby you have lost the house, but also owe the agent, owe the lawyers. So you need to be careful. So you need a specialist who specializes in the property sale to advise you before you even sell, put it in the market.
Indeed, indeed. Sinambali ulapha eMlazi. Siyakumukela Mbali, sawubona.
Yebo njani?
Siyaphila kunjani sisi?
Ngiyaphila.
All right.
Okay, ngine situation la. I bought a property in 2015.
Okay.
Apparently it's a umuntu like individual oyidayisa i-property, but mina ngangiliaisa with iBihari and partners regarding transfer of the property. Once the property has been registered to my name, if sengifana kuyoshintsha ama-municipality account, I only find out that there is a huge bill that I can't change a municipality account into my name. I have to settle my outstanding bills at the previous owner.
Okay, all right. Sabo akusishayela kakhulu Mbali. Yeah, she's touching on the same issue of the inheritance of historical debt. Yeah, and there's actually a court ruling handed down by the Constitutional Court recently about that. Yeah, how would you respond to that?
I think, yeah, let me talk to historical debts. Firstly, the Act says when you transfer a property, all the debts must be paid. The property must be transferred at nil balance at the municipality and at nil balance at SARS. That means that the seller, before it changes ownership, passes ownership to the next person, the property must not be owing anything. That's what it says. And I know it's sometimes different when you buy a property from an auction, a public auction. Because when you buy a property from an auction, you don't deal with the seller. You deal with a middleman or an intermediary that is an auctioneer. And when you're making an offer, you're also making an offer that you will take care or you will settle the outstanding rates and taxes of the seller. Because the seller is, remember, the property is either in liquidation or the property is deceased. Once it's in liquidation, the seller has got no control over his property. A liquidator has been appointed. So you are buying a property with the debts. That's what you are saying. I'm buying it with the debts. So when you go to the municipality, you may be surprised to find that there are huge debts. But the issue of historical debts, the court, even the case that happened in Pretoria, it was based on the property bought in auction, based on that. But so the municipalities, what they do sometimes, they ring fence a debt to say, because this one is running so fast, we'll ring fence it and open another account and keep that one frozen. But when you sell, that must be settled as well.
All right.
Yes.
Now, Jan, back to you in Cape Town. Now, we're talking about the issue of historical debt. Do estate agents advise the potential buyers of such historical debt, or do they just conclude the sale just to get it out of the way?
No, absolutely, we do advise. In fact, before we start marketing a property, I would think any agent worth his salt would do that homework. And one of the threats that an agent would face is in marketing a property and let's, for example, say the bond is much bigger than the value of the sale or the historical debt is that big. So you have to do your homework before you start marketing, otherwise you also waste your own time. So clearly you do advise your seller that the proceeds that he wants to raise from the sale of the property is not adequate for the debt that has to be covered, etc. And it'll be silly to take that same offer to a purchaser who then cannot afford it. But while we're on the subject, I would hate your viewers to get the impression that, like it was said earlier, that a lawyer would now per se be in a better position to see the whole transaction through and give the right advice. You know, I don't for a minute believe that agents are more ethical or less ethical than lawyers or vice versa. I think we're all human and many of us make mistakes.
Indeed.
So I'd rather call it equal. And I think it might be more dangerous if the whole transaction is in the hands of one person from A to Z, because then there's no counter check. There's not somebody else in the transaction that can also check it.
All right.
So I just wanted to correct that statement from earlier that I think it goes both ways, and it's all about the integrity of the people that you deal with.
All right.
So a seller would always be well advised to appoint somebody that he likes and trusts, and that comes with a reputation, whether that be a lawyer or an estate agent. Obviously, I think an estate agent better equipped in this particular instance.
Okay, so thank you. I'll chat to you later. All right, we'll chat to you later. We'll take a short break now. But before we go to that break, this is one point to ponder. Now, should the date of occupancy be before the date of transfer, ensure that the buyer pays interest on the sale figure or rent until the date of transfer? Asibambe lapho ke futhi mbukela siphinde siqhubeke uma sibuya etitolo. Siyabuya khona nyalo. Ungayinzawo. Siyakumona futhi mbukeli. Hey manje ke isikhathi sesiya ngekutsheka. Uma ungasithinzi usenalo lithuba sheshisa kepha ungaze uphuthele. Asasiqhubekeni ma Facebook messages. Vunene Desmond Chauke uthi mina ngibona ukuthi kungcono ukuzithengisela indlu yakho because ama agency bathola imali eningi ukudlula the owner of the house. Wow. And Bantwini says it's good to consult an agent because some people sell their houses which owe the municipality. Smilo yena uthi ke it's better to have an agent than to do it for yourself or to get a lawyer. I would prefer an estate agent. Begzin uthi yena ke mina ngokwami ukubona kuhle kunjalo, especially because all your money is going to your pocket rather than paying those agencies. But the problem with that is that you don't actually have all the information you must have when buying or selling your house. That is a problem you must encounter going forward. So these agencies know all about that, but it's wise to do it on your own when you know the rules and the laws. Ora tisibe sinasese ulapha ke midrani sakumele ehlelweni sese sawubona?
Yes, sawubona njani tata?
Siyaphila kunjani?
Ngiyaphila.
Mina
my question is today we're in a process of buying a house of which we signed an offer to purchase. So now what happened is that the owner had said he does not want like the bond approval to be subject to selling our current house, which we found ourselves in. You know, we had a clause that said, you know, they will give us the bond on subject to sell the current house. So now what we found is that we had paid some of the deposit, which we had to pay for 30 days, within 30 days after we signed the OTP. So now, after the seller had said, you know, there's a condition, he's not interested. Now the agent wants us to pay the rest of the deposit, otherwise was to sue for not paying the whole deposit amount.
Okay.
So I just want to know from the lawyers there on the studio, can this be right? Because what we said now to them is that since the owner does not want the clause, would like to cancel the deal.
All right. Just
to understand that
okay, please hold the line. Daniel wants to chat to you.
No, she's gone.
Oh, unfortunately, we've lost her. Yeah.
So it's very common in a sale agreement that it's conditional to the bond approval. So it sounds like the seller, that's what I wanted to confirm there. It sounds like the seller wants to pull out of the deal knowing that there's a condition now, which is very odd. Why the estate agents are now demanding the rest of the deposit? The deposit wouldn't be paid to the estate agent in any event.
I think the problem that the caller is experiencing is that she signed an offer to purchase, and which was accepted by the seller, which contained the condition equity. I'm buying this property subject to me selling my current property. So we call it a simultaneous transaction. I don't want to incur costs of the new bond while I'm paying the current bond. So that's what she's saying. So therefore, I want these to go together. So that this one, I stop paying the bond, I take a new bond. But once the seller has accepted that as part of, which was a condition in the offer to purchase, he cannot change it unilaterally. The law says an offer to purchase is a serious transaction Once you put your signature on it, you are bound by it. You cannot say tomorrow, I don't really change my mind, I don't like the clause. Unfortunately, he's bound by the contract because he has accepted the offer to purchase with that condition. So the caller can insist on the seller to proceed with transaction on those bases. And if the seller wants to pull out, the offer can take the seller to court and come up with an action that we call it a specific performance, compelling the seller to stick to the agreement or paying damages, whatever she may incur, if she wants to pull out. But it is a valid contract.
It's important to understand that when you're signing an OTP, it's not a very casual thing. It's a very important, powerful document. And I mean, we've dealt with instances where the OTP is signed and next minute one of the purchasers says, actually, no, I don't want to buy this house anymore. I don't want to go through this. It's a binding legal agreement. And as Bongi said, you can't unilaterally get out of the agreement at all. She most definitely has, you do have recourse, and you can actually go to court to make sure that the contract itself is enforced.
So having said that, if I bring an offer to purchase to a lawyer, does the lawyer interrogate the agreement further to check for any flaws or any errors, or do you just do your part, that is transfer and register?
So what we do, being part of the entire marketing and selling process, is that we actually have a sit-down where a lawyer or a candidate attorney sits down with the relevant parties, and we go through, whether it's the mandate or the OTP itself, we go through all the terms and what they actually mean, so that the seller and the buyer actually understand what they're binding themselves to, and that they're completely informed in terms of the terms of the agreement.
Okay.
Maybe just to add a little as well. A sale agreement, it's a voluntary transaction. It's a person who's happily or willing to sell his property, meeting a person who's happily and willing to buy the property. So it's a transaction of people who are happy to do business together. So normally you would say we trust each other and we want to do business together. And that's why they say mainly we conveyancers, we come in once the parties have agreed on what they are buying or what they are selling and they have agreed on the terms. We can explain the terms and so they understand what they are binding themselves to and educate them about their obligations in terms of the contract that they are entering into.
Okay. Sina Ayanda ulapha ke eBay Port Elizabeth sakumola Ayanda sawubona?
Sawubona bhuti Ayanda Ncumi eBay. The phone on behalf of sister wam.
Okay.
Sister wam athenga indlu 2010. Ane? Athe buy ku estate agent.
Okay.
Estate agent kwenzekile 2011 a commit suicide ka xokuxa ba kunokwenza nento ne fraud nezindlu. The owner ibisayisayinile i-deed of sale wayithenga cash landlu nge-180,000. Now uthe ulanduka u-owner wova uba ilanduka estate agent lena ubhethi ngani uzicommite suicide now wathi gqime story esithi sister wami wayirenta indlu kodwa ilanduka i-deed of sale yenze uyisayinile ba indlu ithengekile. Now ngoku uthi indlu ngoba irentwa usister wami up to this day indlu yakhe akakakwazi ukuyilanduka ubayibhale igama lakhe. Sesajonga i-conveyance ka-deed of sale sasifumanisa i-conveyance ngobani saya ku-conveyance yofuna ifile nayo i-conveyance aziyazi kwa intoni kwayilanduka i-sale le of the house.
Sekahlala kuyo le ndlu?
Uhlala kuyo sister wami. All these years behlala kuyo. But into enzekayo yona ngoku i-conveyance aziyazi ilanduka i-account lena.
Okay, but sisi wakho bese kabhadele?
Sebhadele cash. Wayithenga cash through Absa Bank because wayefumene imali emsebenzini emsebenzini wayebhodiwe ngugqirha. Then he had the cash uba makayithenge. Then transaction yenzekayo I think kwa-Absa FNB yabo. But yona imali transfer I think ku-Absa. But owner of the house signed the deed of sale. Ane? But ngoku after ilanuka estate agent iye yafumaniseka i-committed suicide kuba kubhaqala i-fraud zayo. Now the owner of the house igqona story yokuba usister wami eberenda kodwa isayinile i-deed of sale.
Okay, Ayanda, is it an RDP house noma i-bond house?
No, it's not RDP house. It's not an RDP house.
Okay, siyabonga kakhulu kusishayela. Yo. Okay, before you respond to that, let's take a quick break. Siyabuya khona nyalo bukeli. Ungasahanza. Lesi-ke sesiqephu sethu sekugcina mbukeli, kepha-ke singakalivali uhlelo-ke kusekhona longakufunza ngale ndzaba yethu namhla yekuthengisa i-property noma-ke tindlu through bameli noma-ke ama-estate agents. Jan, back to you in Cape Town. We are wrapping the show now. So as a parting shot, what can you tell us about some of the common misconceptions that potential buyers or potential sellers of property have about estate agents?
I think we touched on it earlier that a seller is very inclined to think, well, I know the value of my house, let me just put it on the market and I'll save a huge percentage in agent's commission. But if in that process you undersell and actually earn less money, realize less from the sale, then you've actually lost money. That's what I tried to get across earlier, that the percentage that you agree to pay is on top of what you want to net from the sale of your property. So you're not at risk. You only accept that final offer once you're happy with what you're going to get in your pocket, otherwise you just don't. And with all reference to my friends in the studio, lawyers have a different package. In other words, to get that same conveyancing transaction done, there's a set fee, a prescribed fee that you have to pay anyway. That's not negotiable, whereas the agent's is. Just something to keep in mind that with us, you really just get what you pay for. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes, that people think agents are expensive when actually it need not be the case.
All right, Jan, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for insight. How
Thank
will you
you.
respond to the last caller?
Thank you. Maybe before I respond to the last caller, I need just to correct Uyan. The attorney's fees are not prescribed anymore, are not fixed. There's a ruling by the competition commissioner that the tariffs are uncompetitive. Your fee is negotiable. You give your quotation, the client can negotiate. You even give discounts. So the fee is no longer prescribed. It's just a recommended tariff. It's a guide. It's a guide from the law side. But now, with respect to the client, it is to the caller, it is the same problem. Don't exchange money before you get ownership of the property. So the problem that she has, Imali has passed hands, and the seller, with that unscrupulous agent, I would say so, because it looks like there was a problem. It's now 7 years. So the ownership should have passed. But the caller can approach a lawyer. And then I have bought a property, and this is a sale agreement. I need help. They can go to the High Court and compel the seller to see through the transaction.
Okay. Now, Daniel, in closing, we talk of the High Commission estate agents and the Low Commission estate agent. What is it that they do differently from each other, and who should I approach? Just briefly.
Well, look, I mean, at the end of the day, you want the most efficient, most effective service you can possibly get. When it comes to lawyers selling property, you are specifically versed and trained in marketing and selling property, as well as providing legal advice from the get-go. As we see is quite clearly the case often when, I mean, you see it all the time where people are misadvised in the sale of their properties, and it's quite tragic, actually, that such a simple mistake can be made. But ultimately, when it comes to high and low commission estate agents, it comes down to it. There's an international trend in commissions dropping. We have a lot of agentless services that are really, they're pushing the market. At the end of the day, I think that high commission estate agents, they don't necessarily have as much reason anymore to charge such high commissions. And at the end of the day, you can't say one is better than the other. I mean, you have fantastic agents, you have agents that aren't that great.
Don't the low commission agents then omit certain services?
Well, I can't really speak for low commission agents. I would say that I represent a service that is comprehensive in the sense that it's a lower commission because you cut out the middleman in a sense, if that makes sense. You're just streamlining the process.
All right. Your parting shot, Baba?
I think it is incumbent who gets into the process of buying a house. I did research, I got found what are the pros and cons, what are the hiccups, and then because whatever advice you get, you need to double check it and make sure you understand the process, and you are sure you understand your rights and your obligations in the whole transaction. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, great chatting to you.
Fantastic.
Really pleasure
Thank you
being
for the
here.
opportunity.
All right. Hayi ke mbukeli lokuthiwa ke lokungapheli kuyahlola ngalokhu njalo ke nathi sesifike ke emaphethelweni naluhlelo lwethu sethemba kunyenti lokufunzile siyabonga ukuthi uhlale nathi kuze kube nginyalo nasivakashinde siphinde sibonge nato ngekusipha lwathi lolu hlelo ke litawuphindwa ngalesine ebusuku kusukela nga-10 p.m. kuya ku-11 p.m. la ku-SABC 1 Mzansi for Sure. Kanti ke asihlangane futhi ngemsombuluko lotako nga-12 emini khona la ku-SABC 1 Mzansi for Sure. Mina ke ngiSimphiwe Ngongwane and the rest of the team sale kahle. Yilungelo lakho
Yilungelo